Good morning, good morning. This is a happy group. Everybody's celebrating. All right.
Too much fun.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm Jano Lieber, the MTA Chair and CEO, and I'm joined by New York City Transit President Rich Davey and Frank Annacaro, who runs the buses side of New York City Transit. But we're also thrilled to be joined by my friend, New York City Commissioner of Transportation, Adonis Rodriguez, by Assemblymember Joanne Simon, by Assemblymember Robert Carroll, by my council member Rita Joseph as well. We've got a great group of electeds who are all passionate about bus service. Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso wanted to join, had a conflict, but he has also been very much involved in it, so we acknowledge that. Today is a big day for Brooklyn, which is my home borough, as we release the new draft plan for the Brooklyn bus redesign. As in the Bronx and in Queens, where we've already undertaken redesigns of the bus system, and also Staten Island, the goal is to simplify the network and improve connections, frequency, reliability, and, most important, bus speeds. We're going to pay special attention to working class communities and other areas where people are especially dependent on bus service. I say this a lot, but buses are the true engines of equity in our city. They serve areas where people really need access to jobs and education and healthcare and everything the city has to offer, but frequently where they don't have convenient access to the heavy rail system, to our subway system, or the commuter rails. Buses are really, really important. And improving the bus system has been a major priority for me since I took over the chair at MTA, especially here in Brooklyn. We have, in Brooklyn, 55% of people don't have access to an automobile. And the population has grown by 5%. We got to deal with the bus system. Our riders need a bus system that is actually, newsflash, it needs to be faster than walking so that they can get where they need to go in a reasonable time. The Brooklyn draft plan, and I emphasize it is a draft, is an important step in the right direction. It increases frequency on 24 out of the 69 routes. It adds another 5 overnight routes, and it increases connections to Long Island Railroad stations. This is important. We now are going to have a lot more service on the Long Island Railroad as a result of the long-awaited East Side Access Project and the third track program, and we want a lot of those extra seats to be used by New York City residents, especially in Brooklyn, so we're going to make sure to connect even better to those Long Island Railroad stations. We're really excited to get out there and start the dialogue with the public about this new draft plan. I want to thank everybody. There are a lot of MTA folks back there who have worked their tails off putting together this, analyzing it and dialoguing with folks. Thank you. Thank you. The operations planning team led by Judy McLean and the government community relations team led by Will Schwartz have done an amazing job, and they're really, really the heart and soul of the MTA. So there's more to come because we are just about to get into a very big public dialogue about these ideas. I also have to acknowledge, I always say one of the strengths of New York, and especially of transit in New York, is we have an amazing group of advocacy organizations, and they're all represented here today. Jackie Cohen from the Tri-State Transportation Campaign, Jolise Race from Riders Alliance, Tabitha Decker from Transit Center, Christopher D. Greif, and Mrs. Greif from the New York City Transit Riders Council. Thank you for being here. And of course, Lisa Daglian, who is the head of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Commission to the MTA, always present, always helping us to move forward. Megan Ahern, who is with the New York Public Interest Group. Every one of them is contributing to the progress on transit. So thank you to them, and let me turn it over now to New York City Transit President Rich Davey.
Thank you, Jana. Good morning. What a warm day it is, isn't it? You all look bundled up. Just a couple of things I want to say first to Jano. I mean, we often don't give him enough credit. He has been incredibly focused on bus, certainly long before I got here, and gets that it's not only an engine of equity, as he talked about, but it moves 650,000 people around Brooklyn alone. Brooklyn bus service would be like the 6th largest transit system in America on its own, to give you a sense of how important it is for this borough. We announced in transit last month, Faster, Cleaner, Safer, our plan for our customers to improve bus, subway, and paratransit service. That's what they've been asking for, and that's what this plan delivers on. Again, as Jano said, a draft plan, and while the team has been working their tails off, they will be working their tails off for another few months to make sure we're getting customer feedback across the borough. And I hope, as you've seen both with the Bronx redesign and the Queens redesign, you will see that we are taking the feedback and making changes. So to the public, to those who use the service, to the great bus team here, who's, by the way, the bus operators, we want to hear from the folks who are delivering the service and using the service on a daily basis to make it better. So really excited to be part of this day. And again, we've got a lot of work to do over these coming months to get that moving. I lastly want to give out a shout out, and I believe he's coming up next, Udonis Rodriguez. He's become a fast friend and I think now brother, at least of mine, in terms of making bus improvements. This is part of our overall strategy to improve bus service across the city. So it's not only about redesign, it's about bus lanes, it's about camera enforcement, which we're rolling out to make sure if you're not a bus, get out of my bus lane, get out of my bus stop. This is part of our plan to make sure that bus service is excellent for all New Yorkers. So with that, I think I'll introduce the Commissioner of the city's Department of Transportation, Udonis Rodriguez. Commissioner.
As the sun comes out.
As the sun comes out, exactly. Look at that.
Thank you. Listen, it's so great to be here with the best chairman that the MTA has had. Jano, not only a great leader running the MTA, but someone very respected in the private and public sector for all the contribution that he has made to New York City. And be here with Davey and Frank and many others elected officials. You know, the message is clear. This is the future in New York City. We're not going backward. You know, there's not a third tier of individuals who are inside the bus when it comes to a destination compared with anybody else who is driving. Like, we are committed to be sure that we connect all New Yorkers, working class, middle class, upper class, to the motor transportation, which is our buses, beside the trains. And that's why we're here to say there's a proposal led by the chairman, MTA, where DOT had the honor to be a partner. We all the advocate and the elected official. We want everyone to be part of this process. We want everyone to reimagine the use of our street. You know, at DOT, we are reimagining the use of public space for pedestrian plaza, for bike lane, but also for the buses. You know, I say I'm the face of New Yorker fighting for equity my whole life, since I got here in 1983. You know, I'm not just only the first Latino commissioner, but I'm the first non-native English-speaking commissioner. I'm the first working-class commissioner. I'm the first commissioner that's been living in Uptown, a community that for many decades was left behind. Now there's a new leadership. There's a Governor Hochul, there's a Mayor Adams, there's a chairman here, there's also DOT, there's a whole advocate community who say, which is the vision that we have for the future? So that's why, for me, it's a great honor to be here. You know, we are proud to be a partner with the MTA on the network redesign in each borough. And we are thrilled to stand here with the MTA today on behalf of Mayor Rick Adams in support of this draft proposal for Brooklyn, as we did in the Bronx. It is critical that we update our updated bus route network to better reflect how New Yorkers get around all New Yorkers. You know, transportation deficit is real. And the leadership that is now leading the MTA and also is saying we have to address transportation deficits. And the buses are, you know, the sources, the resources that we have to connect New Yorkers for them to go to a doctor's appointment, to go to school, to go to work, or to go and have fun. In Brooklyn, there have been so many residential and commercial developments over the years, and a modernized bus network will better reflect the borough's evolving traffic patterns. This draft proposal will significantly improve commutes for bus riders and attract new communities to the network with faster, more reliable service. So we are here to say, Chairman Jano, we are partners. You know, New Yorkers are asking for more, and we are ready to deliver more bus service for New Yorkers. Estamos aquí para nosotros decir juntos que vamos a mejorar el
El sistema de tránsito en Nueva York.
¿ok? Y por eso es que estamos diciéndole a todos los neoyorquinos de clase trabajadora, de clase media, que sean parte de esta propuesta, donde queremos buscar sus ideas sobre cómo podemos mejorar el servicio de autobuses para todos, para la clase trabajadora, para la clase media y para la clase alta. Thank you.
I think at this point we're going to invite Assemblymember Rodriguez to speak. Followed by Assemblymember Simon. Assemblymember Carroll is going to speak now, followed by Assemblymember Simon. I know there's an Assemblymember Rodriguez, or at least to be a senator, but here we go.
Good afternoon. It's wonderful to be here with with the MTA, so many advocates and colleagues in government as we reimagine and redesign Brooklyn's bus network. For most New Yorkers who don't have a car, it is imperative to have efficient and quick bus connections so you can get around the borough. As a frequent rider of the B68 and B67, I couldn't get around my own district if not for Brooklyn's buses. So the fact that we're taking the first step to making sure that those buses are quicker and more efficient and more convenient for everyday New Yorkers is so important, especially New Yorkers with small children, with disabilities, or who otherwise can't access the subway. So I'm very excited to work with the MTA and transportation advocates to make sure this happens and happens in a way that's best for every single Brooklynite who relies on the bus every single day. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. Welcome to the 52nd Assembly District, the home of more bus lines than you can shake a stick at, as my alerts often give me little notices about the 17 bus lines that are delayed in congestion here in downtown Brooklyn. So we know what the problems are. We're learning more about what those problems are. I am a frequent bus rider myself. And I think that we owe it to all New Yorkers and certainly all Brooklynites to redesign this bus network. I want to encourage everybody, because this is a draft plan. That draft plan only gets better if people participate. I want to encourage everybody to come out and participate. Send in your thoughts and ideas. Let us know, the elected officials, what your concerns are and how we can improve that service. And we'll be working very closely with the MTA to ensure that your voices are heard and that there is a response to those, and that the ultimate plan is one that actually better, faster, and more reliably serves all Brooklynites. So thank you very much for being here today, and I'm looking forward to the challenge of working on this bus service and maybe having fewer alerts in the morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to our Assembly members. They've been great partners in all of our work on the transit system. Now we'd like to hear from Council Member Rita Joseph.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rita Joseph. I'm the council member for the 40th Council District in Central Brooklyn. I wanted to thank the advocates, elected officials, my colleagues in government, and community leaders out here today. We're here to talk about bus improvement and a draft. And I remember I got a text on my way here, and they were like, "What's your ETA?" I was on the B41. I was on the B41 delayed. I'm a bus rider, avid bus rider. I don't drive, so I take the bus and walk around the district as much as I can. But I wouldn't be remiss if I didn't mention the urgent need for a bus lane on Flatbush Avenue to improve the quality service on B41, which is currently performing the worst than 99.6% of the city's bus route. The implementation of a dedicated bus lane from Flatbush Avenue would be a great win for Central Brooklyn. In the meantime, however, this bus redesign will be a major upgrade for the entirety of our borough. So thank you so much, and I look forward to working in partnership with the advocates, MTA, DOT, and all of our partners and leaders in advocacy in this space. Thank you so much.
Okay. We're coming to the Tim Minton portion of the program. As our press friends know. Tim, do you want to lead us through Q&A?
Oh, okay. Actually, Actually, Dave can go first.
This is
Yeah, I'll go first. Thanks.
all right.
Everybody loves me. You know, maybe Jano, Rich, or Adonis, or all three of you guys can kind of talk about this. The existing conditions report talks about what makes buses slow in Brooklyn. Obviously, part of it is traffic, and a lot of cars, a lot of trucks, parking in bus stops, things like that. What in this plan makes that traffic get out of the way and improves the bus speeds, especially on these corridors that you guys highlighted in the existing conditions report?
Rich, you
I mean, so bus speed is obviously key, as you mentioned. A couple things. I mean, we'll be, as we have in some of the other redesigns, look to reduce some bus stops so we can keep speeds up. But certainly, as you mentioned, working with the city, we're going to be looking at bus lanes, of course. And then, as you've been seeing, we've been rolling out ABLE enforcement, the automated bus lane enforcement, which is key, right? So even if we have bus lanes, even if we have the best redesigns, if folks are violating, the lanes or parking in bus stops, not helpful. So it's all of that will bring better bus service. I think right now the average mile per hour speed for a bus in Brooklyn is 7.2 miles an hour. I mean, we can do a lot better.
And we work together, Rich and I, in the Bronx. We council member Pierina Sanchez, Oswald Felix, board president Vanessa Gibson. They just say we need automatic enforcement in Fodder. And immediately, with the leadership of Jano and Rich and the whole team, Fran, few days after, the MTA was putting the automatic enforcement in buses 41 and 12. And based on the data, what they have seen is that where there's automatic enforcement in buses, it helps to move those cars away. And most people, when they get one or two tickets from the camera in the buses, they don't get the third one because they learned the lessons. So as we have done in the Bronx, I know that this is something that will happen across the 5 boroughs, including Brooklyn.
really important to the commissioner's point. 20% of the people who get a bus lane violation ticket get a second, and only 8% get a third. So it really works. Next question.
Hey guys. You mentioned that equity is a big part of this design. Can you just give some very specific examples of what does that mean? What does that look like?
Well, I mean, the biggest issue, Steve, as you know, is that buses are depended on disproportionately by working class neighborhoods, by communities of color, historically disadvantaged neighborhoods. That is one reality. The population who relies on buses is maybe a little different than the population that relies on commuter railroads or even subways. So fixing the bus system is equity in itself. Second, you have people, disproportionately living in neighborhoods that are further away from job and education destinations and who are off of the subway map. So we want, by improving buses, you're dramatically improving the opportunity for those folks. The specifics of how you accomplish, as you say, equity goals by redesigning the system is, it's basic stuff. If you are allowing a mom to move more quickly through her day so she can get to work and ultimately to get home for a PTA meeting, or a dad to get home for a kid's for a game. I mean, there are all kinds of opportunities. The bottom line is working class and middle class New Yorkers depend on the transit system, so making it better is itself an equity play of significance. Others, you want to speak about that?
I'll just say one of the other, you asked for tangible, you'll see the plan this afternoon, but we've been adding rush routes, right? So for folks that are further out and away from subway or railroad stations, the rush route will bring them closer to the subway as a bigger connection. We see that as a big part of the equity equation as well.
And I just also add overnight, disproportionately, folks who deserve more equity work on off hours, and adding overnight routes is itself a significant move in the right direction. We have 5 new overnight routes in this plan. Others?
Hi, can you talk about timeline? When can people expect the final redesign?
Well, I'm going to let Rich again step up and give details, but one of the principles that we establish is we're not setting any final we're not setting a time limit on the discussion. We're going to have a public dialogue, and we're going to take as long as necessary to make sure that every voice is heard and that we have an opportunity to incorporate the feedback from everybody in Brooklyn. This is too important to say we're going to just set a deadline and close it down. But Rich, can you add on that?
I mean, exactly. And so, I mean, that's the part of public process, right? So I can tell you is the plan comes out today. We're going to start public meetings in January. We're going to have a set of workshops, I think 2 a week for about 12 weeks through March. We'll take that feedback. Obviously, elected officials, as they have in the other boroughs, we'll hear from folks. We'll take all of that feedback and come out with a draft plan, a second draft plan later in the year next year. So it will take some time. I know on the one hand, folks wish we were could roll these out more quickly, but on the other hand, we need to make sure that we're hearing from, in many respects, the voiceless. I mean, bus customers, not just in New York, but across other cities in the United States, tend to be less organized, don't have a voice. We want to make sure we're hearing from them. So that's going to be, I think, our main concern, is ensuring we're going out and listening to elected officials, to our customers, and making sure we're taking that feedback. I guarantee you that we did not get 100% of this plan right. I guarantee it. We will make changes, and we want to hear from folks.
I have an off topic. So there's
Okay.
been a lot of discussion among the commuter community since yesterday's meeting about possible fare and toll hikes. Can you outline again what this would look like for the commuter and the why?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's really simple. The MTA has lost about a third of its riders, about a third of its revenue. That's $2 billion hole in the MTA's budget. What we have done is come up with a plan to shrink that deficit dramatically down to like $600 million. But still, a modest fare increase may have to be part of the solution. We're always open to ideas from the decision makers in Washington and Albany and in City Hall about how to solve the fiscal problem of the MTA, which is, as we say, a cliff that's approaching fast. If they have a plan that allows us to avoid the fiscal cliff and avoid a fare hike, we're all ears. In the meantime, we're trying to restore what is a modest fare increase. We're talking about 5.5%, when, since we last had a fare increase, inflation's gone up 16%, so it's very modest, and we would love to avoid it, but we do need to solve the MTA's financial crisis.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.